Well, boys, the MR2 is just about ready to go back to the track, and I am freaking pumped. Me and Wyatt stayed up last night getting a whole bunch of little things buttoned up on the car, and she is just an alignment away from being ready to go to the track. We got a whole bunch of little things done that we didn't really talk about. Like, we finally got a heat shield made for the parachute here. Just got that guy made out of some aluminum. That should have been done since day one, but we finally got a heat shield. We still have a hole burned in our outer bag right here, so we're still gonna have to get a new one of those, but we pulled the parachute out just to make sure that it wasn't damaged or anything like that, and we are good to go there. But got our heat shield on there, all of the charge pipes are back on, got our intercooler on there, so everything in the engine bay is all good to go. On the front here, we just got to get the bumper back on, but everything up under here is done and back to the way it was, all ready to go. We have some gas in our tank, we have some water in the water box. I got the car back on the scales as well, and she is right where we want it to be. The fuel cell and water box aren't completely topped off, and it is pretty much right at a 50-50 split with me in the car, and that is what we wanted to see. So really pumped about that. Like I said, I think the weight plate is really gonna help this thing take off, and after the work we did to the inside of the car, cutting the tunnel and some other things out, it actually is still extremely light, even with the added like 150 pounds. With me in the car, it is just over 2,400 pounds. Without me in the car, it's only like 2,270, I think it was something like that. So the MR2 is still a very light car, under 2,300 pounds with no driver. So I don't think we're gonna have any issue on the weight there. But yeah, that's about it, boys. The interior's all put back together. We got the shifter and e-brake remounted. We made a custom little stand for the shifter, so it's actually lower now, and it's slightly angled towards me, so it's not pulling straight back, it's actually kind of towards me, and it's more comfortable for the driver. And yeah, everything's mounted up in there. We cleaned up the wiring a lot. The whole center console is gone, so it looks really nice. Seat is fully mounted. I can go ahead and fire this thing up for you guys. Sure you don't mind hearing the MR2 run for a second, all that 4-cylinder choppy goodness. She should fire right up here. I really wish all of you guys could see and hear this thing and smell this thing in person. That Ignite Red, oh, it smells so good. I miss it every time we fire this thing up, but the cams are just so aggressive. It just sounds so mean, and I know every time someone sees it for the first time in person, they're like, the videos do no justice to how it actually sounds when you're around it. I think we'll have the car available, we'll have it on display at Cletus and Cars, which is coming up April 2nd. The Freedom 500 is April 1st. So if you guys are planning to come out to the Cletus and Cars event, we're gonna try to bring as many of the cars as we can out there. We'll probably have the MR2, the NSX, and the Routacy, because we're gonna hopefully have that thing up and running by the time Cletus and Cars happens. We'll probably bring the hatch down. So we're gonna try to bring a lot of the fleet down to Cletus and Cars, let you guys check out all of the vehicles. So yeah, but I'm pumped. She's just an alignment away, and then it's ready to go to the track and send it. Hopefully we'll see another 7. But today's video is not about the MR2. Today we're actually going to be moving the MR2 out of the way, and we're going to do a little work on the K-Swap jet boat build. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting to see some updates on this thing. Honestly, poor girl has just been sitting because we have been busy working on the van and MR2, and we've just had, you know, a lot of stuff going on. It's just me and Wyatt over here. Currently Wyatt's working on his race truck, so he's busy with that, and I figured today would be a good day to see if we can get some engine mounts knocked out for the jet boat here, because we know where the engine needs to sit, and we have some parts on the way that will connect the engine to the jet drive unit. So my job is to go ahead and get the engine mounted into place so we can get all of the final measurements and know how long our little drive shaft needs to be and all of that good stuff. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and move the MR2 out of the way, get the jet boat over there because I need to use the lift to get the K-Series back into here, and we're gonna see if we can knock out some engine mounts on the jet boat today. And that will be a huge step on this thing, and we can keep going from there, and we'll be, you know, that much closer to getting it on the water, because I've been wanting to see the jet boat up and going just as much as you guys have. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right guys, we got the jet boat over here by the lift, and before we can get the engine back into this thing, what we are going to be doing is cutting out these added stringers right here. So you can see this Sharpie line that we made, and this follows the engine cover that has the 2 other seats built into it. So that is the front edge of that, and we're going to be cutting these back from there, because when we had the engine in here last, we found that we do need to go as low as we can with it. So we'll get about another inch of clearance if we go ahead and take those guys out of there. So we're just gonna use a cutoff wheel, cut those out, get them ground flat, and then we'll be able to set the engine back into here and start seeing where we can go to mock up our motor mounts. All right, so I've been messing with this thing for the last couple hours. Getting this engine lined up in the correct position was quite the task. I did not think it was going to be this hard, but there's a lot of important little things that need to be correct when lining the engine up with the jet drive unit. The engine has to be at the right angle. You need to have the right distance away from it. We have to make sure it's centered in the boat properly, because if we don't have the drive shaft lined up properly, it's going to cause stress to the jet drive unit, and it can cause a whole bunch of unwanted vibration and harmonics in the boat. So doing my best to get this thing as lined up as we possibly can. I think the time lapse ended and I just unhooked the engine from the lift, and what I tried to do originally was stack the engine on some like pieces of metal, and I was just shoving stuff under there and trying to get it at the right angle I needed, but you know, that did not end up working for me, so I ditched that idea. Now I got quite the contraption going on here. So if you look, I got the engine held up by the lift with the chain, and we have a ratchet strap on the front of it right here that helps me control my tilt angle a little bit, and then we have a ratchet strap on each corner going on crisscrosses both sides, and those help me twist the motor. If I pull on the ratchet straps, I can twist it side to side, and then I can also pull it to one side or the other. And then for right now, I'm not too worried about the forward and back, because that can be adjusted in the final step. Basically what I'm going to do is build my motor mounts down to this stringer right here, and they're going to go to plates that are going to be bolted to that part on the bottom. And if I build the mounts with the engine at least correctly centered and at the right angle, I can always slide it forward and back on the mounts. And then once we actually get the drive shaft in, I decided we're going to wait until the drive shaft and new flywheel are here, and then we can make sure that it is the correct length away from our drive unit, and then we can drill through where its final place is going to be and bolt it down. Sorry if that's a lot of talking, but man, boys, this thing has been fighting me. There's so many little things. So I think I have it just about ready to go where we can start building mounts. And got to be careful coming into here because I tilt the boat, but one of the more important things is the drive shaft angle back here. So I'm gonna try to squeeze myself back in here. So this is our jet drive unit, and I have a digital angle finder right here. So if I set it down and zero this guy to the boat, give me 1 second here, boys. All right, so she's about zeroed there. If we take this to that flange, we have 2.1 degrees. Sorry that screen's so bright on there, but it's 2.1 on there. And then if we go to the face of the flywheel here, make sure it's nice and pressed up tight on those bolts. You can see we are at 2.1 on the engine as well. So we have the correct angle because the face of this flange right here and the face of this flange need to be parallel to each other. It took me longer than I want to admit to fine tune that ratchet strap on the front to a perfect 2.1 degree angle, but she is lined up and good to go right now. So now all I have to do is make sure the engine is centered side to side and make sure the height is correct, and we can start building some mounts, boys. And then, like I said, the forward to back we will deal with once the drive shaft and flywheel get here. Oh shoot, boys, take a good look, because this is where the K-Series is going to sit in our jet boat. I spent probably another hour just making sure everything was lined up properly, and we are looking great. So the engine is now straight and centered. I also bolted a piece of angle iron to the flange on the jet drive unit here and just kind of measured end to end to the end of the flywheel on both sides, just to make sure the motor isn't crooked. I measured to the center of the jet drive unit right there, made sure the end of the crankshaft is in line with that, nice and centered there. I also measured the center of the boat right here in the middle, made sure the snout of the crank is nice and centered with that guy. Obviously there's going to be a little play here and there as we're working on it, and we'll do some final, you know, measurements before we fully bolt the engine into place. But everything is looking great, guys. The angle is perfect and the height is right where I want it to be. It is as low as it can go in there without the flywheel hitting the drive unit right here. And this is actually a flex plate off of an automatic, so we have to switch to a different style flywheel, and I had to take into account an extra about ½ inch because this flywheel doesn't have the starter teeth on the outside of it, and the flywheel we are receiving will have the starter teeth, so it's going to be just a little bit bigger in diameter, but we have plenty of room there. And what is really cool about this is now that I have it in place, I also took a couple measurements from where the sides are right here, because the cover, we were worried about that not fitting, and after just some quick measurements, I think it's going to work without too many issues. We might just barely hit the intake right on the inside right there, but other than that, I think we're going to make the 4-seater work just fine, which I am really happy about. So moving on from there, we are working on the motor mounts now. So I have these polyurethane mounts right here. So these are just some universal mounts you can order online, get them in a whole bunch of different sizes. So how these come, they split apart and they have a metal insert right there. And then you just have to order the right diameter tubing, which those guys slip into. I need to clean the burrs off of these, but those press into both sides of our tube like so, and then you end up with this guy right here. And then we have a nice little polyurethane mount, because we don't want to mount the engine solid into the jet boat, because we'll have a whole bunch of vibrations, you know, stuff will probably start cracking. It's not going to be good. So I'm going to be starting with the back mounts first, and to do that we are going to be going off the back of the engine here. So this is where the transmission used to bolt up. We have a threaded bolt hole right down there, and then we have this upper hole that goes all the way through and connects to the starter. So that's going to take a bolt with a nut on the back side of it. And what I did is I took a piece of paper, and this is a cool trick you can do if you need to get a accurate spacing of two holes to make a mount or flange off of. So I just took the piece of paper, butted it up to those guys, and I just took my finger and kind of gently massaged around the hole with my finger there, you know, not too firm. This is starting to sound a little dirty, but you know, massage the hole with your finger and you'll get 2 markings there. Kind of hard to see on the GoPro, but we have our holes for the back of the engine. Then I'm going to take this, and I believe this is a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, about, maybe it's a 3/16 inch thick plate of metal. Yeah, that's 3/16. So we got a 3/16 inch plate here, and we're going to put those guys right along the edge. I'll mark my holes. We'll get those drilled, and then I can kind of draw my design out of where I want that poly mount to be. Just going to kind of have 2 holes and then like a little droop off to the side, and then that guy is going to weld directly to our mount, and then the mount will sit something like so. And then we're going to have these plates right here bolt to the boat, and we're going to have 2 tabs coming straight off of those, and then the mount will sit in between like that, run a bolt through it, and we are good to go, guys. So that is the plan. You know, there's probably more than one way you can do this, but this is what we came up with. And since this will be in the water all the time and we are using some mild steel, we got to make sure we get all these guys painted up so we don't rust our mounts out. I've seen a lot of people build mounts out of aluminum, which is probably smart since it won't rust, but we're going with the steel route since it's readily available to us, and we already got these guys. So let's get to it. Oh yeah, boys, we got ourselves an engine mount for the back of the boat. So I went ahead, got that all welded up, got the poly pressed into our piece of tubing there. And this guy will sit just like so off the back of the block there. And then we'll be able to make that bottom mount go right up to that guy. And that is looking freaking sweet. And now I'm ready to move on to the front mounts, because not only did I get this rear mount done, but I got the other side knocked out as well. Ooh, check that out, boys. Your boy's been hustling over here. So I got both sides done. Did this one the same exact way as the other side. This one will just bolt up like so. And then same idea, 2 tabs coming off the bottom of the boat to that guy. So both of the rear mounts coming off the engine at least are done. And now I'm going to be moving on to the fronts. I'm going to be doing them pretty much the same way I did the rears, but just slightly different. So there are 3 threaded bolt holes on the OEM block, one right here, here, and one up here. So I'm gonna make like a triangle plate to bolt to all those 3, and then I'm going to have a piece of mild steel tubing weld off of that plate, and then that will go to another poly mount, and then same deal, we'll have the plate to the bottom with 2 tabs, and then there are 2 bolt holes on the other side, and I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Put a plate on there, piece of tubing to the poly mount, and then a plate to the bottom of the boat. But before I make those bottom mounts, after I get these front ones done, I just need to do some final measurements, make sure everything is still in place, because I've been leaning up on the boat. I've been working in there, taking measurements for these mounts and stuff, and I'm thinking things might have shifted just a little bit. Even though I got everything ratchet strapped pretty good into place, the boat is still just on dollies. So as I'm bumping into this, and every time I climb into here, the boat kind of wiggles around a little bit. So I just need to make sure that everything is in line before I do, you know, those final mounts. But before we even bolt the mounts to the boat and it's permanently in there, we're going to be waiting until we get the drive shaft in. So the mounts won't be like officially done in this video, but they'll be like 95% of the way there. And then the final step will just be making sure the engine is the correct length from the jet drive, and then we'll actually bolt them into place. But we should be able to get them done and actually set the weight of the engine into the boat, and it will be positioned correctly where everything needs to be. So let's go ahead and get those front mounts knocked out. Oh shoot, boys, our first engine mount is pretty much done. I just have to finish welding that guy out, get those corners ground to make it look a little nicer. But check it out, got our first mount in there and it is looking sweet. I got both of the front mounts done that come off of the engine as well. I just need to get the poly pressed into that guy. We'll do the same thing there. I'm working on the other back mount right now, actually. Gonna do the same thing with the plate and the two tabs coming off of it. I got the other front mount over here. This one still needs a little finessing on the corners right there. Got some grinding to do just to kind of clean it up a little bit more. And I have to finish welding it out. It's not all the way welded yet, but check out those dimes, boy. But that is our other front mount. We are getting close here, so I probably have at least another hour to go until we can set this down into the boat, maybe even a little longer. This has been a lot more time consuming than I thought it would be. It's starting to get dark out. I've been working on this thing for like a solid 2 days now, but we are almost there, guys, and I'm freaking pumped. But man, it's definitely a lot of work. K-swap a jet boat, they said. It would be fun, they said. Kyle, you won't miss third gear with a direct drive in the boat, they said. But you know, it's gonna be worth it when it's all said and done. Definitely a unique swap. I'm glad we went this route instead of just doing the typical Sea-Doo. I think it's gonna be awesome, especially when we get a little turb ski on there. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep working on these mounts, guys. Oh shoot, boys, it is freaking time. I'm a couple monsters deep here, but I'm staying up and getting this thing knocked out. I got everything welded out. I got the mounts back onto the engine here. I still gotta get these corners rounded off, clean them up, but we'll do that later on at some point. We also need to get a nice layer of paint on there, get them all painted up nice. And yeah, but for right now, I went ahead and got them back on there because we are ready to finally lower this thing down, and it will be resting in the jet boat under its own weight without it just, you know, kind of being in there randomly. It will actually be in position here. If you look at the engine, we got our lean back to follow that drive shaft angle. I double checked the angle right before I started filming. Everything still is lined up great. So I'm hoping, you know, it doesn't shift too much when we actually lower that weight down onto those poly mounts. They might squish a little bit, but it should be pretty much good to go. So without further ado, boys, it is freaking time. Let's go ahead and lower this K-Series into the jet boat here and get all of these ratchet straps off. Hope you guys are ready for this. I don't know if the locks are on. I'm gonna need 2 hands for this. I'm gonna set up the GoPro over yonder. All right, here we go, boys. K-Series in the jet boat. Oh, it barely even budged. Hell yes, dude. Let's get all this off. Come down a little more. That off of there. She's in there, boys. There it is. Finally. Get all these straps off. Oh my gosh, I'm so pumped. This was such a big step that needed to happen to make progress on the jet boat build. I know you guys have been wanting to see more on this thing. Just decided to get her knocked out for you guys. And for me too, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not doing this just because you guys want to see it. I want to see a K-Swap jet boat up and running just as much as you guys do. The K-Series is in the jet boat. That is so awesome. That is about right where it's going to be. Like I said, we might have to scoot it forward just a tiny bit, but now that we have the mounts on there, we can actually, you know, fine tune and position it. We know the height is good, we know the angle is good, so we can always still move it around if something is slightly off. And I know I had this gap under the flywheel here. Yep, and we didn't lose that at all. We are good to go there because we will get a little wider once we get the flywheel with the starter teeth on it. We still have plenty of clearance down there. What you think?
Looks really good, dude. You killed it on the motor mount.
It's in there.
Yeah.
I went ahead and got the power steering pump out of the way as well, because before we finish this video up, I got the boat cleaned out and everything. I'm curious to see how well the seat cover clears. Yeah, I think it is gonna come pretty close right here after we measured, but you know, only one way to find out.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and
in a second.
Yeah, let's go ahead and set that on there. Well, we're caught up somewhere.
Yep. I bet you it's that alternator. I bet you have to take that off.
Find out here.
It's right back down there.
Okay. All right, I'm still gonna go in there, but this time I'll be able to crawl to both sides. All right. Does it go lower?
No, that's what we're getting.
Okay, so right now, it's just hitting on the harness a little bit on this side. So this side over here will clear. It's just barely hitting on the wiring harness right there. And then the other side, let me see. Did it come down farther than before, or is it about the same? It looks closer. We only have to go down about 1.5 inches, or maybe 2 inches. And then, yep, it is hitting on the intake on this side.
How bad?
I'll show you the video. Not bad at all, honestly.
Okay. We'll still have to make a manifold or cut the seat.
Yeah, if we do a custom intake, it will be no big deal at all.
Okay.
Or yeah, you could notch the seat just barely, but it's not bad at all. I'll show you the video after. Here, let me get a better look for you guys. So yeah, right where I was thinking, it's just barely hitting right there on the intake, but we're close. We only have to go down that much more and it will work. So that is not bad at all. And then this side clears fine. Just gotta redo that harness, but we'll be good to go. All right, I'm ready to come out. Well guys, that is gonna do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this jet boat update. It was a big one. Definitely a lot of work just going into those motor mounts there, but got it knocked out. So that is a huge thing off of our to-do list. We still have, you know, so much work to get done on this thing. It is still a long ways away. We still have to get the jet drive fully secured in there and sealed up. We're waiting on a custom flywheel to come in, get the drive shaft in there, but all this stuff is on the way. We're making progress, and then hopefully soon we can move on to wiring, getting the steering figured out, you know, maybe start mounting some seats and keep going from there and just try to get this thing to its first water test.
Yeah.
Make sure the concept works all right, and then just keep on going from there. And then one day, we think she's gonna have a little turb ski on there, but that is a long ways away. We still have a lot of work to do, but I'm happy it's in there, frickin' finally.
Big step.
And it looks like it's gonna fit perfect. You know, as you guys just saw, we do have to do some modifications to make the 4-seater work, but we're not gonna have to go back to a 2-seater. We're gonna make it work with the 4-seater back there, and I'm pumped. It's finally in there.
I'm excited to see it rip. I think the K24 with the extra torque, I think it should do really good. Just
Yeah,
even NA.
I'm not worried about it at all. I think this thing's gonna just rip. I'm pumped, boys. So hope you guys are excited. That's gonna do it for this video, and we'll see you next time.